Now. Go ahead.
All
And
right.
we're back.
Here we are again. So I'm about to get into the plane without a crew, and I'm going to do my best to read this. But
Okay.
I've never been an outward speaking book reader before. I usually have those words in my head,
Yeah, he's a big
and
nerd. He just, it's all.
we'll see how this turns out.
No, I'm just kidding. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. All right. You better sit up, Joey, and stand up
Oh,
straight. The teacher's
forgive
talking
me.
now.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Mr.
So
Officer Doofy reporting for duty.
yeah, that's right. All right. Late in 1944, a United States B-17 was on a bombing mission over Germany when it got into trouble and made an emergency landing in the field in Belgium. People on the ground were astonished to find there was no one on board the aircraft. Where was the
Hmm.
crew, you might ask? On November 23rd, 1944, anti-aircraft gunners at a British Army base near Brussels were amazed to see a B-17G coming towards them with its landing gear down. It was flying faster than it should have been for a landing, but it touched down anyways. The landing was hard, and one wing hit the ground, causing outboard engine propellers to disintegrate. The plane came to a stop about 100 feet from the gunners, and the soldiers waited for the crew to disembark. Minutes passed, and three of its engines continued to run, but there was no sign of the airmen.
Hmm.
What is going on here, Joey?
Hmm.
Eventually, the Army Major John Crisp decided to investigate. Maybe the crew were wounded or needed help. Maybe they're just stuck in there. Who knows? That's what I'd be thinking.
Hmm.
When he got into the fuselage, there was no one there, not a soul even. Major Crisp found evidence of occupation, such as partly eaten chocolate bars and a flight log that said cryptically, bad flak. Oh, how fitting, right, for the time period.
Hmm.
Even more puzzling was the existence of dozens of unused parachute packs, right? So, I think that was kind of important that you take your parachutes with you.
Right. Right.
The Phantom Fortress. The head scratching started that Major Chris reported and passed up the chain of command. The aircraft tail number identified it as belonging to the U.S. 91 First Bomber Group stationed in eastern England. I guess they
Okay.
decided to be British for the war.
Yeah.
It has been part of a flight of B-17s carrying out a daylight attack on an oil installation in eastern Germany. The aircraft was under the command of Lieutenant Harold R. Diebold, an experienced pilot, and had a crew of 10. All the airmen were found safe and sound at a base in Belgium. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Failed bombing mission. According to the pilot and his crew, their aircraft developed some sort of problem and was unable to fly at the same altitude as the rest of the group. Also, its bomb rack developed an issue. Then one of the engines took a direct hit from anti-aircraft fire. Another piece of ordnance slammed into the B-17's belly. LT Diebold reported we had been hit in the bomb bay, and for the life of me, I don't know why the bombs didn't blow up. Well, I guess a blessing there.
Yeah. Yeah.
With three engines and a wounded aircraft, LT Diebold decided to abort the mission and head for home. However, this plane kept losing height, and the pilot ordered all unnecessary equipment to be thrown out. Basically, then another engine failed. Still, the plane slowly descended, and it became obvious there wasn't going to make it back to England. So they're screwed.
Right.
Somewhere near Brussels, the pilot ordered everyone to bail out. LT Diebold was the last to leave after he put the plane into autopilot. All right. Oh, they have a tidbit here of conflicting stories, but we're
Ooh.
gonna skip through that.
All right.
Bonus factoids. All right, actually, we're gonna do the conflicting stories because we
Okay.
might as well just take this head
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Might as well.
Uh, the fog of war is notorious for creating widely different versions of the same event. You could probably attest to that, Joey. And so it is with the Phantom Fortress. The soldiers on the ground clearly reported all four of the B-17 engines were running when it landed. Did the two damaged
Ooh.
motors mysteriously fix themselves after the crew abandoned the plane? Well, maybe they had a Battlefield 1 pilot aboard and he just kind of used the wrench a
Yeah.
few times on it.
Yeah.
And
Just he was hanging on the outside, and he was like, kink, kink, or he had the blowtorch, which obviously
yeah,
fixes everything. We're just blowtorching everything, and he's like, "Yeah, you're good, man." And slaps it a
Yeah, I
couple
mean,
times, and they go, yeah. I mean,
at at this point, I'd be wondering.
yeah.
So, so why were there a dozen parachute packs on board? Well, LT Bolt said he ordered everything unnecessary to be thrown out. Did he make a mistake? Empty packs with full ones, or throw out empty packs? Um, Major Chris reported that he saw no obvious anti-aircraft damage to the plane, so that's kind of weird.
Ooh.
The biggest puzzle of all, how did the plane land itself? This was decades before GPS equipment on board computers. Planes of the era had to have humans at the controls in order to land safely. We all know that. They kind of
Right.
point that out like we might have not known that.
Right. Right. Yeah.
As the
Well,
historian Matthews Black
Southwest made
notes,
the thing, and that you honestly sometimes would think that a 2008 Volkswagen landed that fucking thing, but
yeah, yeah,
Southwest, fuck you, Southwest. Anyway,
it's mind blowing that the plane landed as though it knew it had to land itself, which any
right.
pilot would tell you is preposterous.
Oh
Is
yeah,
the word they
absolutely.
use.
Yeah.
How did the B-17 achieve the correct angle of descent? I mean, hell, I've played a lot of World War II games, and you know that like to land that, just landed in
You gotta
GTA, like you
you
can't
gotta
just get
feather it.
lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Um,
that's how we know it. I mean, pilots obviously know, like, I mean, they can come in and they just go, whoosh, and then they're right on the runway. But we're not like that. We don't think like that. We don't know that. So how the fuck,
yep,
you know? But anyway, back in the day, there's no way that that plane would have known how to land itself.
yep.
But
So
yeah,
what was pure luck that landed in our open field and not in the forest or on a building? Why did it come to a stop with three of its four engines running? None of these discrepancies were resolved in the official report of the incident. At the time, military folk were far too busy trying to win a war than trying to square the circle of conflicting stories. That's fair. I'm sure there's a lot more
that's very
stories like
very
that.
very fair. Yep, yep.
Now, they use a funny word here. Were the Boffins experimenting with radio control pilots?
The
Aircrafts that
Boffins.
were forced to land unconventionally in front of puzzled witnesses. Was the crew bailing out? Story conjured up to disguise a hush hush experiment. Fair, fair.
Yep.
We'll likely never get the answer to these puzzling questions. So now we move on to a spot called bonus factoids here.
Okay.
I don't think we need. No, it gets into some Hollywood stuff there.
Yeah. Well,
So we
here's
made
my
it
thought
to
on it. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm
sure.
sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to say that. So that actually concludes what is known about it, and I'm actually surprised because I thought
Right.
this was going to prove some stuff wrong to us.
Yeah, I have no idea. I've never heard of this. The only
Yeah.
thing that I can say is that what stuck out to me, right, as far as the story goes, is the flag thing. You said they said bad flag or no flag or nothing. Whatever they said. Bad flag, I think is what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that to me makes me think that they landed the plane, they got off it as quickly as they fucking could have, and then they just booked it the other way. Like they just got off and they, you know,
Yeah, I
the
would say that's pretty legit because you ever notice like you could actually reference the flag of Iwo Jima
right,
photo. You
right,
know that one of those
right.
guys was actually he was
Look,
falsely
I'm a Marine. I know all about it. Yeah, yep.
stolen
No,
valor
yeah,
for
right,
sure.
right, right, right.
Uh,
I was actually in the
one
Air
of the,
Force and I didn't do anything but sit in a chair for 6 years. So no, I'm just kidding.
one of the
But
gentlemen in that photo was actually falsely identified, and the story goes that his mother
right,
really believed it was him actually in the photo. She knew it was him. And you think about, well, that's wild because you can't
right,
think of their faces
right.
essentially. And back, in 1940, you didn't have the clout chasing lunatics like you have now, where they wanted that on Instagram as soon as possible.
Yep.
The guy never spoke up in his living life about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I
then
mean,
then the Marines one day going through their filing cabinets, getting the mold off it and the rat
right.
guts, rat crap.
That's what they're
Yeah,
doing.
just blowing it off like it's an
Yeah.
N64 cartridge
yeah.
by all means.
Yeah.
They were like, wait a minute,
Wait a
this isn't
second.
the same guy at all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is that like I honestly I think that much information is skewed in the World War II era where I think a whole crew would just never say, hey, we all jumped out of this one airplane. It did they probably never even knew it landed. Like the
Exactly.
communication probably never had. They figured it probably flew into a
Yeah.
barn over
Yeah, and
England there.
the reason I don't think that if there was no crew in the plane, I don't think that it would land itself. And the reason I'm saying that is because in order for you to line it up and actually land the plane, you have to be up in the air for a couple of miles. And a couple of miles is probably a short distance, like as far as being up in a plane. So you have to line it up, put the wheels out, put all these kind of systems on just for it to land itself, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
you're telling me they did that in 1940s when we were still using prop
1944 is the
engines?
date. Oh yeah.
Prop engines. I mean, fucking big spinny things that did like this. And then you're telling me that the plane landed itself? No, I don't think so. I don't
Well,
think
it's got
so.
to be pretty insulting to Captain Sully, don't you think? We could have just been like, "Hey,
Well,
Captain Sully, why didn't you
you
just?
know,
We didn't
Tom
really
Hanks is
need
a
you
good
that day."
actor. Tom Hanks is a good actor. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
say that, but
Oh yeah. I'm not saying he's not for
he
sure.
should not have
I'm
played
saying
that
the real
role.
Captain Sully
I
should have
know, I
just
know.
not showed up.
I was trying to like lead up to a joke, but yeah, um, I don't
But
know. I mean, like it's it's so wild seeing um, or hearing about something that just seems preposterous, right? And I
mm,
know that I've got just as many topics or conversations about it. And then I always go to like my logical side of my brain where I'm like did they land the plane and they just got out of there before anybody else did? Like, get up to the plane, or like could you potentially maybe, almost get the thing on the runway and then jump out, or like where, like that's where my mindset's at.
right,
So it's
like
definitely
if
it's
you're
definitely
a
odd. It's definitely odd.
yeah, so like say you're Robbie Knievel, but you're the Air Force version driving a B-17.
Exactly.
How do
And
you press the limits here? How do you
that's
think like, oh, I'll go ahead 10 miles and I'm bailing out?
that's exactly the other side of it too. It's so crazy that it happened in 1994 or 1944. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like, what the fuck was there? There was cars at that point in time. There were cars. That was it. There's no internet. There's no videos. There's no nothing. You didn't have fucking DVD or VHS or anything until what? VHS was probably like the 80s, give or take.
yeah,
I
you
mean,
had
you didn't have
laser
any of
discs
that.
and all kinds of things. Eight
Yeah.
tracks, those are music things. Yep.
Well, 8 tracks right there. I mean, they were all tapes and shit. But yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
those
it's
tapes. Yep.
it's just fucking nuts to me. You're telling me there was
So
a plane that landed on its own, and then it happened in 1994 or 1944.
yeah.
That's fucking nuts. That's
Well,
a that's
what's
a
even
crazy
crazier
thing to think
about it?
about.
Think about how crazy it is that it actually landed basically within radius of other humans that expected humans to be on it.
On a
Like
runway.
it didn't land on its own. It didn't land
That's
its land out in a field. Nothing.
that's exactly why I think like they were all like up at the front, like a school bus, like you get on, through the door, and then sometimes you're waiting in line to get out of the bus because of whatever. I'm just thinking of like the cockpit of this B-17, and I'm imagining it with all these windows up on top, like the B-29, and then there's these people just kind of standing there, and then they're waiting, and then they get to like 10,000 feet or 2,000 feet or whatever it is that you need the altitude for in order to actually jump. They're waiting, and he's like, go, 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 go. And then they all jump out, and then he gets there, and lands, and then they all get out, or whoever's left gets out and just fucking scurries right into the nearest brush, and they just lay there and they're just watching. They're like, what's going on over there? Oh, oh, you think that plane landed itself? Oh, guess what? It didn't.
The
Ha
ultimate troll play
ha.
right here.
Right. And that's what I'm thinking. Like, even if they didn't
Yeah,
jump out of the plane, the rest of the crew, even if like it wasn't necessary for the landing, which honestly you only need one pilot, right? Like one person. I know that. Well, are B-17s dual cockpit? I think they're dual because
I
you get
I,
the
I
stick and
believe
the.
so.
I think they're dual cockpit. So either way, right? Everybody else leaves. All the gunners, all the bubble turrets, all that stuff. Those they can leave. They can parachute and do whatever. So then you're going to land this plane, and then as soon as you stop, like the moment you go, ah, you unbuckle your seatbelt and you get the fuck out and you run, right? Because in
Yep.
1944 there wasn't. I mean, especially in what do you say they landed in Belgium,
Brussels,
Brussels.
Brussels, England. I do believe
Yeah.
that's where it
So
is.
you're not having fire trucks and ambulances and all that shit, fucking pull up on the scene. You could just as easily fucking jump through the window and run off to the woods and then literally just watch. Just with your own peepers. You're just watching. Like, oh my god, these idiots fucking think that that thing landed itself. And it's just one or two
Right.
guys that just ran into the bush. So
Yeah,
that's
like
my thought on it. That's my
it,
thought.
makes you wonder if these guys were like, so it was a United States
Right.
plane, so obviously United States
Right.
crew. Maybe they just decided to play the ultimate trick on some old UK blokes there. So it was
That
like,
or they weren't supposed to be there. And then they were like,
oh,
ah, fuck, we shouldn't be here. Because if they were flying over, even in the 40s, like they were an axis, like they were, uh, England was an axis to the United States. But we weren't in the war until 45.
oh no, 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 oh
Oh, well,
they were
maybe
they
we
were
were.
allied to us, Joey. They were
I know they
allied,
were. I
yeah.
know they were allied, but we didn't get into the war until after Pearl Harbor, which happened in
So
45, I
41
think.
actually. So we were actually well
Oh, that's
entrenched
right.
by
That's right. That's right. That's
1944.
right. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Ignore that. Ignore what I just
Yep.
said. I'm
No worries.
remembering
No
now.
worries.
Yep. I'm thinking of 45 because of I don't know what I'm thinking of. There's something that happened in 45. It was like November.
45 would kind of mark when the war ended,
Yeah,
essentially.
45 is the bomb. That's what I'm thinking of. Because the
Oh yeah, the
B-29 is what
atomic
we're thinking
bomb.
of. Yeah, or what we're kind of talking about. The B-29, the Super Fortress, the Enola
Yeah.
Gay. It's all 45. So that's where my mind was.
Yep.
Sorry,
Yep.
guys. Sorry. Hey, look, I'm wrong. I'm not a
It's all
Google.
good.
I
It's
just
all good.
yep.
But it's kind of funny that they found that encrypted message there that said "lot of flack," lot of flack.
Yeah.
Um, well,
It
like it
means
kind of
still
makes you wonder,
nothing,
like,
man.
what if they were partly crazy? Like, I don't really know the mental health ramifications a lot of guys in the Air Force had. I know it's like anything else where like you see stuff. You've dropped
Oh,
a
I
lot of
got the thing for
bombs. You've
you.
worked with a lot of pollution. You've worked around a lot of uh, maybe it's one of those things where even if you're not up and close and personal to death, maybe it's still when you're dropping the bombs. Maybe it's kind
Right.
of somewhat
So
hazardous.
go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt
Uh,
you.
and I was also going to say, speaking of Pearl Harbor, we all know that depiction of after they crashed the B-17s and they are well not
Yeah.
equipped with the Colt
Yeah.
45s and such that
Well, they had their
uh,
own. They were like Mitsubishi made. Is who made
oh really?
the bomber planes like where they it just released it, like it's a mechanical thing. You just like pull the lever, it releases the bomb, and then it goes. The kamikaze thing, actually, and I could be wrong, but if I'm remembering correctly, was a like an ideology. It wasn't like the Japanese government was like, you've got to go run your planes into these boats.
We got to
It
save
was
money on rockets, so we're making you be a rocket.
well, they had bombs. They had like close to, you know, 10 kilos, which would be, I don't know, 7 and some odd pounds.
Well, we all know that they could shoot
Right.
a wicked torpedo. Just ask the Arizona.
Exactly. Yep. Well, exactly. And yeah, so they had the planes, and then at the end of it, it was like somebody's like super fucked up brain was like, oh, you've got to kill yourself to uh, do this, that, and the other for the Japanese Republic or whatever it is, right? And then people would just be like,
Empire.
well, fuck, I'm out of bombs, so you know the whole
Yeah.
kamikaze thing is somehow fucked up. And and look, I'm looking at you, camera, the people that are watching that are like, well, that's not actually right. I don't know. I don't know. I just heard something, and then that's what I think I heard. If not, then I'm wrong. Whatever.
We
Um,
only reference what's been written down, and it's safe to say in
exactly.
World War
And
II, a
if I've
lot
heard
of
it,
stuff wasn't.
there's no way that I would come out with that out of my fucking stupid head here. So I had to have had it, played to me at some point, or I've heard it at some point in time. So don't jump on me, okay? Fuck you, bunch of faggot.
But
Ooh,
remember, Joey,
no.
there are friends in here. We're all
Yeah, well,
friends.
except for that
The
guy. You
entire
know who
group.
I'm talking to.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
right here.
yeah. He's got
You,
the lazy eye.
you motherfucker. Lazy eye. You stupid bitch. You
So
all that.
so continue talking about the mental health problems.
Um. Oh, as far as like World War II goes, or
Yeah, of what you thought the unit might have been going through. I think you were starting to
oh,
go on that.
yeah, I had a point after that, but I can't remember now. Yeah, I mean, I think that there was definitely, I mean, definitely something else that was
Yeah.
going on. I don't think that it was just, hey, the plane's going down, we're gonna try to land at this place, and then, okay, so take it separately from that, where, oh, this plane landed and there's nobody on it. I don't, I can't buy into that. I mean, it doesn't matter. You could say that happened today. I don't buy into it. Something happened, right? You could say like, I mean, especially if it was like the height or the close to the end of World War II, especially B-17 bomber where they've got all kinds of technology on it. There's no way that they unintentionally landed this thing there.
Mm.
They probably did it for a reason. And the good thing is, out of the story, is that they landed in an ally region
Mm.
um, in Britain, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Brussels. Brussels.
Brussels
Well,
is in
actually, landing
Belgium.
in a field in Belgium. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I mean, again, allies, right?
Hmm.
As far as yeah. So allies, they landed in a field on allied territory. So it's not in the hands of somebody.
Yeah.
Um,
Nothing like that.
and then they just all of a sudden find no people, or maybe the Brussels fucking community was like, hey, we didn't see you here.
Mm.
Wink, wink. We didn't see you
Yeah.
here, but all of a sudden this plane landed because at that time it was part of a big war, so they might have been able to, hide all this shit in all these documentaries or whatever, or documents. I mean, um,
Yeah.
and be like, well, yeah, no, the plane landed, no people here, because
Yeah.
Brussels was never part of it. Okay, so no, I'm thinking of a different thing. So never mind. But
So
it is
here's an
definitely odd to
interesting
me.
here's a tidbit. So like I alluded to earlier, the depiction in Pearl Harbor where the Air Force pilots are outgunned when they're actually in a fair fight, you might argue, when they're on foot, but metal to metal.
Right, right,
It makes you wonder if like they thought it was maybe it wasn't evident to them that it was a UK military installation. Maybe they thought it was straight up something else or it was compromised.
right.
And basically, as soon as that thing parked, they were out. They were gone.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean,
Because when you think about it, the all you got is probably your handguns. Maybe you got a couple rifles, depending on what Jimmy stored in the back there by the cigarette cartons. So here's a different take at it, but it could be just as relevant as ever.
right.
So if you're ever going to think about the multiverse or multi universe
I love
theory,
that. I love that. Oh my
yeah.
God, I love that.
So
Yeah.
they claim. Have you ever heard the theory? They claim that a monkey will eventually write Shakespeare if he puts a pen to a piece of
You
paper.
put you put a million monkeys in a room for a million years, somebody
Yep.
eventually will write Shakespeare because it's just bound to. Well, that goes more into like the number theory about like there's only so
Sure.
many iterations of things, and there's only
Mm.
so many iterations of the combination of our 26 letter English language, right? So you put that through something, 26 different letters, you could tell it, hey, write me something out of these 26 letters. And you could run it for millions and trillions and billions and quadrillions or whatever's the amount of
Mm.
time. You're always going to end up at some point with Shakespeare because it's going to
Yeah.
throw these numbers together, or these letters for this case. It's going to throw these letters together in an order exactly like how Shakespeare did. So you can run it through infinitely, right? Which is just the big mind-blowing number that nobody can understand or comprehend. You put it
Yep.
through these iterations, it's going to do it at some point. At some point, the letters are going to match up exactly how it is in Shakespeare, and it's always going to end up at some point, once, twice, three times, four times, who knows? It's always going to end up in the same THE space DOG. It's always going to end up like that. So
Yep.
that's a super fucking crazy thing to think about. With
But it
like,
also makes you wonder if, well, you have X amount of B-17s, you have X amount of road that it can land on.
right,
You have, anyways, eventually it's going to find its way onto the proper landing strip, and maybe that explains.
exactly.
That will
Well,
explain.
I don't know. I think that goes a little bit more into maybe like physics and well, okay. So if you want to say we'll just chalk it up to any other timeline, any other circumstances, any other kinds
Yep,
of
burnt to a crisp in most of them.
exactly. Anything else, it would happen probably a million times over, but in our lifetime, it seems like it happened one time. Does
Yep,
that make sense? Like where it's just like
yep.
that doesn't seem possible,
It
but in
doesn't seem
our
possible.
timeline, it is possible. It just
Yep.
happened, right? Like we just saw it. And then that's when you take the step back and you're like, well, shit. Say you and I were both, having the same conversation in 1944, and then a year later, this fucking plane, does whatever. So it branches off from the timeline, right? And then we're now
Mm.
in this one where the plane lands itself, but this one the plane doesn't. It just right into the ground, right? So we're now in this timeline where for some reason, somehow, some way, shape, or form, it landed itself. You know, there's it blows my mind sometimes how much shit there is to think about.
Oh
Because
yeah.
like at this current time, it